It's time to get sexy on Secular Sexuality.
Well, hello and welcome to Secular Sexuality. My name is Megan Bonner, and joining me, as always, is my wonderful co-host, Christy Powell.
Howdy.
And joining us today is Lana Knight. She's with O'Brien's Orchestra and the Rocky Horror Picture Show, or the local Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Austin's Rocky Horror Shadowcast.
Awesome. So before we get into the absolutely wonderful and amazing work that you do, I just want to, we have a huge announcement. That announcement is that on Valentine's Day 2019, that is February 14th, 2019, 1 month, we will be having our first live show that you guys can come and see. And it will be immediately followed by an acoustic performance by Shelley Siegel, who does the, I can hear the guys in the back yelling, who does the song that plays before the Atheist Experience. If you've ever heard any of her music, it's amazing. And it plays before Godless Bitches. So this will be a ticketed event. It'll be $30 a ticket, but the awesome thing is there will be free food and drinks will be available for purchase. There's only limited seating. It'll be a nice romantic kind of feel, intimate. So get your tickets while you can. I will either be giving you the place for those tickets later or they'll go in the show notes. Either way, you'll be able to get those tickets, and we are super excited.
Yeah, jump on in quick. I mean, what better way to celebrate the death of a Catholic saint than by hanging out with two of the sexiest heathens in all of Austin?
No shit.
And I for one, am excited. We talk to so many great people on air every week.
We do.
But I don't get to see their sexy faces.
I know.
Perhaps I'm biased. I don't know for sure. I'm looking to confirm, but I'm under the assumption that we have one of the sexiest audiences on YouTube.
You know, I think we do. And the great thing about this particular show is that we will not be taking live calls that day. What we will be doing is taking live questions from the live audience. So that should be pretty fun. And we may or may not come in some amount of dress attire.
And,
I mean, or lack of dress. No, not lack of dress. No, some type of special Valentine's Day attire.
We will, in fact, be dressed, but the question of how, that's still being negotiated.
For the occasion.
Yes.
Right, for the occasion.
Exactly. And with that, I would like to turn it over to you guys. So, Rocky Horror Picture Show. Christy, what is your experience with the Rocky Horror Picture Show?
Yeah, so my dad is a little bit straight-laced. He's always been like very warm and accepting, but I mean, he is that guy's guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he loves football, loves beer. He was always that growing up. So when he would talk in these wistful tones about being in high school and like sneaking off to go to see these like midnight showings of this crazy movie, I was naturally baffled by it. And when I came of age, when I was ready myself to, enter the time slip and go into that crazy, debaucherous world of Rocky Horror, my mind was absolutely blown. It was a huge part for me in just recognizing that, man, there is so much more to life than the cleavers and, I mean, even Modern Family. I mean, life, sexuality, all of these things don't look the way that they do in 99% of all movies. Mm-hmm. So it's, for me, it was Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, and Rocky Horror, and these different like crazy movies that introduced me to this whole world of gender and sexuality and just craziness.
And awesome style.
Awesome style, absolutely. So, Lana, what brought you into this debaucherous world?
Oh man, same. My parents. I remember back in high school, it came up. My sophomore year, some older kids were gonna go. They were gonna go down to Tampa, and I lived in Florida.
Corrupt and deflower you?
No, I was too young because I was still sophomore year of high school. But eventually, I moved to Austin, and my parents found out there was a local Shadowcast, and they were like, "We got to do this right. You're 18 now." So we went. Me and my mom got our noses pierced together, and then we went to saw Rocky. Yeah,
that is pretty. That's a really beautiful induction that you had your mom with you for the deflowering.
Yeah, no, we used to do this virgin ceremony where you had to air hump a person with you, and I had to do that to my mom. So.
Wow! All right, so
Yeah.
pretty sex positive household then.
Yeah, pretty much. We're all super chill. My stepdad especially is a huge movie buff, so we would go to Weird Wednesdays and Terror Tuesdays, and so this was just kind of an extension of that, but on Saturdays. So, yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay, so can anyone explain to me why, before we started the show, it was insisted that I have a big red V put on my forehead?
Yes. So.
Well, and for the audience in general, I mean, Rocky Horror is it's not just a movie. We're going to get into a little bit about what it is,
Yes.
but there is so much more to it. I mean, honestly, if Megan had gone home and just rented the video and watched that
Which
2-hour
I very well
film,
may.
She'd still be a virgin though, right?
Yeah,
right?
no. You're a virgin until you actually see an actual shadow
Alive.
cast.
Yeah, so what is the Shadowcast then?
So a shadow cast is basically you get a group of all your best friends together, and then you dress up in the costumes like the movie, and then you act out the movie in front of the movie. So generally, for our cast, we have a little stage. We bring it up to the front of the theater. We have all the props and everything, and it's originally Rocky Horror was a stage play, so it's kind of a way to pay homage to that original stage play origins. So you have people dressing up, acting everything out. Everyone has prop bags, and you're throwing stuff, and you get to yell.
A lot of audience participation, a lot of callbacks, and
so many callbacks, audience participation, throwing toilet paper and toast everywhere. It's a lot of fun. Yeah.
Okay, so Rocky Horror, if anyone's wondering, originally was a movie, right?
Yeah, that's after the play.
Yes.
There was a play.
Very
and then a
quickly
movie.
turned into a film that was an immediate flop.
Yes.
But a cult classic.
Yeah,
Cult
so
classic.
much so that it was they were giving it away, and theaters that could barely keep the lights on were like, well, I guess we gotta show some shit, so why not this weird, queer, sci-fi bullshit?
Yeah.
I guess we'll put it on at midnight when no one else is watching, and that's when the Freaks came out.
Yep.
And they are the best people.
Yes.
So again, what's with the V here?
Right. So you're a virgin. So traditionally, whenever we have virgins that come out to the show, what we like to do, we call it a de-virginizing sacrifice.
Okay.
So
I shall be
there's a little tradition that you have to do. So you take your right hand and raise it.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Take your left hand.
Yes.
Firmly grasp the crotch.
Oh, okay.
Firmly grasp it.
Yep. Done.
Okay. And so repeat after me.
Repeat after me.
Yeah, not yet.
Okay.
You're supposed to. Okay. Generally, people still repeat it. That's I don't know. There's whole thing goes. Okay. So repeat after me. Mm-hmm. I state your name.
I, Megan Bonner,
Do hereby admit that I am a Rocky Horror virgin.
that I am a Rocky Horror virgin.
I wish to lose my morals
I wish to lose my morals
and welcome decadence into my life.
and welcome decadence into my life.
In the name of the Rocky,
In the name of the Rocky,
the Frank,
the Frank,
and the holy riffraff.
and the holy riffraff.
Fuck you.
Fuck you.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I did hear tell that there was one other part of this whole induction ceremony
It varies troop by troop, right?
cannot be surpassed.
So, depending on the troop, there's usually a little game or a fun little induction ceremony. So some troops will have you, try to hold a balloon between each other and pop it. Some troops, it's who can blow up a condom the fastest for a long time. And we still do at some venues. The Draft House is not as fond of this one, but we would make, we'd have two lines. So it'd be female identifying, male identifying partners, and then you just kind of air hump each other to the Oscar Mayer Wiener song.
Hey, Mark, cue that music.
Oh, I'd love to be an
You gonna jump up and air hump?
I mean, we can't really stand up and be on camera, but, you know, go for it.
Nothing says sex crazed debauchery quite like the
Oscar Mayer Wiener
yeah,
song.
right?
Yeah.
Right, which
I love the throwback quality of it. I think that's a huge part of the appeal of the movie is that it's set in this like idealized, queerified version of the 50s.
Yeah, no, and it's really like the movie came out in 1975, so like it's weird like thinking that because it like feels so old, but it's like it's only that's like oh gosh, it is old like now, but yeah, no, it's definitely
Apologies to our middle-aged audience.
Sorry. I'm 22 and I was like, oh yeah, no, that feels like
I
such
feel so old.
but like no, it felt like not that long because I was like thinking, oh yeah, no, that's like only like 20 years or something, and I was like, no, that I'm 20, it's so much longer.
It's been a little while.
Yeah. So yeah, it's super old movie. It's set in like this like very romantic like ideal, like you said, idolized like 50s. Like Janet's like this very like housewife, like or aspiring housewife kind of situation, and it just likes to take all that and flip it on its head and fuck everyone. So yeah.
Cool.
Not unlike the mission of this show.
So true.
So true.
So with that, can I ask how you got started with the Rocky Horror Picture Show?
Yeah. So like I said,
Or Shadowcast.
Yeah. So O'Brien's Orchestra, it's a really great organization. Basically, it's anyone that wants to join can join. You just have to, come up and like dedicate your time and like actually show up to shit. But yeah, so like the night I went and saw the show for the first time, they were like, hey, anyone that wants to join cast, come up and talk to us after the show or message us on Facebook. And I had just moved to Austin a couple months prior. And, I didn't really have any, like, friends or anything, so I was like, this is going to be a cool way to meet people.
The right kind of people, or a very certain kind of person
anyway. I
anyway.
definitely determined that they were, like, my type of people. Like, I'm from, like, a shitty small town in Florida where it's, like, me and, like, two other people were, like, we were, like, the town freaks. So, that was kind of like my motivation. I was like, oh my gosh, there's these like people that like seem really fun to hang out with, and like it's a whole community, and it's a really strong support system too. So like I just went up and talked to them. That's actually how I met my best friend Maggie. She was the cast director at the time. Came up and talked to her, exchanged numbers, and then I just started coming out to the show every week. At the time, we were doing it every week, so it was just every Saturday I'd show up and did my tech stuff, and then next thing I know, I was playing Janet. So.
That sounds like how I got involved in the ACA.
A little bit. It's just, you're a little bit behind the scenes. Next thing you know, damn it, Janet, you're on stage.
Damn it, I'm on stage. I know. And so, yeah, I can relate to that part.
Yeah, definitely. At first, I just wanted to play Magenta, and then it was like, go big or go home. Yeah.
So you went big.
Yeah, I went super big. My first part was Magenta. My first part was Janet. Then after that, I started playing Magenta. I think after that is when I started playing Frank, and then a couple months after that, moved into playing Rocky, and then Eddie. Yeah.
See, that's a huge part of the fun of the show is playing with gender. I mean, that's really what it's about in a lot of ways.
Yeah, definitely. And at first, like, I definitely know there was, like, some hesitation on my end. Like, I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be, like, good in, like, a male part or, like, I don't, like, feel comfortable at the time. But, like, the more you do it and the more you're on stage, you're just like, oh, yeah, this is just another character, and it's like this is like a fun way. Definitely like the way I do Rocky sometimes, like I'll like femme it up a little bit. Like I have like a gold metallic skirt and like suspenders, so I'm like very like femme when I do Rocky sometimes, but it's still like Eddie is very like, I feel like that's like the most like masculine I get. Like I'm all like the black eye and everything, and like wearing like ripped up My Chemical Romance shirts. So yeah.
Nice. That sounds so much fun.
It is. It's a lot of fun. It's definitely like Probably the most fun you can have on a Saturday night. Honestly, like getting up on stage, like running around in your underwear in front of people is definitely like the best.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to have to, you're going to have to deliver, but I'm going to have to see if this is going to be a good Saturday night.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Well, I, for one, have about a dozen more questions about what it's like to be on stage, about, just that crazy, wild experience and the weird culture of it. But I definitely wanted to also make sure to get to the phones if we have a moment.
We do. We have a caller.
And a few lines open as well.
Yes. So 512-686-0279 if you'd like to call in. We do have our guest on today, but really you can call in about anything. We're here to listen and here to talk. So getting us started will be Jan. You are on with Megan and Lana and Christy.
Greetings, siblings. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
Not too bad. Everybody hear me okay? I've got a new headset here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We can hear you great.
Yeah, what's on your mind?
Well, first I want to thank you for having me on the slab.
That was not a bad Tim Curry, yeah.
Well, I never actually did the Shadow Troupe, but I might have cosplayed Riff Raff once or twice here in St. Louis.
Nice.
I am atheist, have been since recorded history of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Never was particularly religious. Parents weren't religious. I consider myself very open and progressive when it comes to sexuality. I, at one point, actually reasoned myself into being pansexual. And I am heavily into the kink community, BDSM, dominant submissive sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I have one hurdle that I've been struggling with for a while now.
Okay.
Intellectually, I'm well aware of the legitimacy of sex work. Sex workers need to be protected. They need to be legitimized. They need to be protected and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still an ick factor there that I've been struggling with for some time.
Yeah.
It's the sort of thing like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with prostitution. I think prostitutes are legitimate. I think, and I know prostitutes are not the entire spectrum of sex work. I'm well aware.
Sure.
But there's still something there that says, I would never go to a prostitute. I wouldn't want my daughter to be a prostitute. I wouldn't want my girlfriend to be a prostitute or a sex worker. Insert appropriate noun here.
Sure.
And I don't like feeling like a hypocrite. I don't like saying intellectually, I get this, it's legitimate, it's okay, it's positive, as long as you're safe, safe, consensual, etc. But I wouldn't do it. And I need a little push. I need someone to help me along just a little bit to get me to the place where I can bring myself to be not only intellectually okay, and understanding and accepting of it, but also that get past that emotional hurdle. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes. So I have a question for you.
Sure.
In the wide world of various different types of sex work, is it the prostitution that you're having the hardest time with, or are you having trouble with the whole range of them?
Not really specific. I'll give you an example. I'm sure you guys have heard of FetLife. I am a member on FetLife. And I see FinDoms, financial domination. I see young women, mostly young women, occasionally young men, looking for sugar daddies. They call them sugar babies. They basically want a negotiated financial relationship sort of thing.
Right.
And anything of that stripe just makes me go, are you freaking kidding me? That's
The commodification of it.
Right, the commodification, exactly. And like I said, and I'm perfectly, again, intellectual. Prostitution, other sex work, it's a job. You're putting your body out there. So do construction workers, so do firefighters, et cetera, et cetera. And like I said, intellectually, I get it. I'm okay with it. But there's just that emotional, like I said, and I don't know where that push that would, because like I said, I don't like feeling like a hypocrite.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's actually a hurdle that a lot of people experience. And I think that totally makes sense. And I think the first place that I would encourage you to go is just exposure. You know, whether that's the opportunity to talk to a sex worker of different stripes. I mean, you don't necessarily want to go to a strip club and try to strike up a conversation in the champagne room, but having an opportunity to interact with these people.
In Las Vegas for a while, so I've seen that scene as well.
Okay.
And you are technically talking to a former sex worker right now. So I was a cam girl.
Yeah.
And you as well?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, definitely there is with the cam girl profession, there is a slight space between the worker and the
glass is there for a reason.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that still doesn't mean that it's not sex work. It also, like you were saying, the whole sugar daddy thing is a big thing in the cam girl community. It is a serious niche that gets filled pretty well.
Can I ask a quick question? Is what you're uncomfortable with, is it just like the fact that there is money involved in it, kind of like you said, like the commodification of it?
Partly, but it's not just the money aspect, because when I see the sugar babies, they say, you know, here's my Amazon wish list. Go buy me things, and maybe we can come to an arrangement. We can have a relationship, something like that. You know what I mean? It seems one of my long-standing favorite quotes is that sex doesn't have to be everything, but it should be something. And I understand that's kind of old-fashioned thinking. You know, I understand that it's a job just like any other, and that there's nothing in particular about sex or sexual activity that elevates it to a higher realm of activity than anything else. You know, I mean, you could have these feelings from a musician, from an artist, from a painter, from an actor or a playwright. You can get these same sort of edification and euphoric feelings from art and music and philosophy and things like that. So there's nothing in particular that elevates sex above all these others, you know, profound experiences. But like I said, I don't, and the problem is, if I knew where it came from, I think it might be easier to get past it. But my parents weren't prudes. They weren't religious. Vaguely sort of conservative-ish. But, you know, when I was 20, I met a gay man who basically hid a crush from me for 3 years because he didn't want to freak me out, and he wanted me to come to accept this community on my own before I felt threatened by a gay man having a crush on me. You know, I've had good experiences with quote-unquote alternate sexuality. But it's just this one thing. Like I said, I managed to reason myself into pansexuality. I think that gender is basically a useless construct. And I've been trying for the last probably 6 months to eliminate the pronouns him and her from my language and just go to a they for everyone. But like I said, this is one thing, and I feel like this is, if I can get past this hurdle, then I can stop feeling that niggling little bit of hypocrisy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. I think Christy's point about exposure is really important, because I know I had not the same, but maybe similar views, honestly, before I became a sex worker. It's a very fine line, I think, when you take something like sex and the way that sex is in our culture and you put a price tag on it. It gets very, very muddy very quickly. But exposing yourself to I'm not saying go out and buy a hooker. I'm saying just go out and meet people who are sex workers and just hear from them and hear how the healthy ones, I should say, because there are unhealthy people in every profession, not just sex work.
Right. And professions on the margin, oftentimes in particular. So we do get that forced out. But failing that opportunity to really talk with people face to face, I mean, that's part of what this type of show is meant for.
Yeah.
I know my experience of shaking free of religion and a lot of these shames really came from just constantly over and over again listening to podcasts like this one, watching, documentaries, Hot Girls Wanted and Hot Girls Wanted Turned On, After Porn Ends. Those kind of things jump up at me because they do talk about the some of the problems that are inherent in the porn and sex worker industries. And I think that recognizing those, addressing those instead of sweeping them under the rug and pretending that there aren't any problems is a really good step towards acknowledging, well, what actually is the problem? Where are the problems? And the problem isn't people wanting to be in these types of relationships. The problems are usually surrounding, legislation and moral shame and all of these things. But even if you don't have the opportunity to necessarily hang out with folks who have worked in the sex industry or these different things, watching those videos, hearing those people's voices, seeing that representation can be a great way of sort of easing yourself emotionally into feeling more comfortable with these sorts of things.
Yeah.
Right. I think another. I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, you mentioned earlier that you were on FetLife. Definitely, use the events tab. Find a local munch. Find your local kink community, because I guarantee you, there's gonna be a ton of sex workers there. Obviously, don't out them. But if you go out and mingle at events and stuff, eventually you will probably get to know someone, and then eventually it'll come up and you'll be like, oh, I didn't realize that you did this. Because that's definitely I think how most of my friends I found out from munches. We would be hanging out, and then they were like, oh yeah, back when I was camming. So it's I definitely watch, like he said, watch videos online, but definitely also get out there, be active in your local kink community, because we're out here to be out here.
We exist.
Yeah.
I would definitely say that's a valid suggestion, but the problem I have with that is I've interacted with the local kink community.
Mm-hmm.
And quite frankly, my experience with the local kink community, and I don't know if it's a St. Louis thing or if it's a kink thing or what, but there tends to be so much drama. Who belongs to who? Who's stepping on whose toes?
There can be a lot of that. Yeah.
And it's just, and I don't, what I do with my girlfriend /sub/love of my life and myself, it doesn't require a community. We do our own thing. Uh-huh. We make our own rules. We're safe, sane, and consensual. And so I kind of have shied away from the community for that reason, because I just don't want to deal with the drama. I don't want to deal with all the egos. I don't want to deal with all the pretentiousness we have to admit that comes with this kind of lifestyle.
Oh, it comes with just being a human.
Yeah.
Right.
And being in the culture that we have.
When you get someone who thinks they can put on a pair of leather trousers and stick the word master in front of their name, there's going to be a massive amount of ego there.
Uh-huh.
And it just, like I said, I shied away from the community for that reason, and I don't particularly find it very palatable to, immerse myself in that. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I definitely understand. There's been a fair share of drama in the Austin community too, but there's different groups. I don't know if St. Louis is the same way, where it's there's definitely some groups that are known for drama, and then there's you have healthier groups where it's everyone's just kind of everyone has their own partners, they're minding their own business. That's always my thing is if you mind your own business, you don't get involved in drama. Just don't, I don't want to hear about it, unless you're actually hurting someone. And it's obviously I want someone warn me if someone I'm talking to is a shitty person, but try to mostly just stay out of the drama. But yeah, no, I totally understand the hesitation there.
And then there's just not liking people in general, kinky or otherwise. You throw me into a mixer or a meetup or a munch or whatever you want to call it, and that's just not my best self. I am not a good mingler, and that is okay.
Yeah, I like people in small doses.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, definitely. I think the older I get, the less I want to go to the munches. It's you have to drive there.
Well, I'm 45.
And so that's why I really do stick to my recommendation of just recognizing these people's voices, spending some time around those voices, whether it's, pre-recorded or in front of a camera or, on a headphone while you're jogging, or whether it is at a bar, at a coffee shop, at a munch, at a meetup, all of these different things. If you are feeling comfortable intellectually but are still struggling emotionally, that to me just says that you need more repetitions of that intellectual part of your brain actually getting applied to the real world, not just some abstract concept of what sex is or should be or could be, but actually meeting human beings.
And getting to know more actual sex workers in your own life. That is, it's exposure therapy. That is exactly what it is.
Because this is sort of the very definition of cognitive dissonance here, I think.
Sure.
Yeah.
And exposure is usually the best cure. I'm sorry, say again?
I said, cognitive dissonance is not a comfortable place to be, as I'm sure we all know.
Yeah.
Not at all.
No, naturally. And so I think that exposure really is the key for that. And so I hope that helps. And, I think it's worth also giving yourself some credit and realizing that it's okay to have some heebie-jeebies every once in a while. I mean, you can tell me...
Don't give me too much credit. I'm a narcissist.
Okay, all right. You suck, unless that's your king.
Praise upon me.
You can explain to me 1,000 times why this tarantula is perfectly safe and healthy and fine, and if you tie me down and let it crawl all over my chest, I am going to freak the fuck out. And that's okay, so long as I'm not hurting anybody or whatever, lashing out in some kind of way, I'm okay with accepting that part about myself, even if I would like to grow and stretch and change. And it sounds like you do, and that's great and beautiful, but don't beat yourself up about it either. As long as you're being kind and generous to others, your thoughts and your emotions aren't something you need to apologize for in the same way you do your actions.
I appreciate the validation.
Yeah, don't let it go to your head. But
that was ironic.
We hope that helps.
I hope that helps, and I really appreciate you calling in.
Yeah, keep up the good work. I love all the ACA shows. This subject actually came up because I saw Matt post about sex work on Facebook at one point, and I thought, I couldn't think of a better place to call than SexSec, and so.
Well, thank you.
Well, thanks for taking my call, and you guys keep up the good work and stay awesome.
All right, appreciate you.
Will do. All right. Well, damn.
Yeah, starting off hot.
Yeah. And thank you for jumping in there. That was awesome.
Oh, yeah, no, it was chill.
I was definitely going to ask, as somebody who performs on stage, either naked or with other naked performers, and then you mentioned being a sex worker. I don't know what that looked like for you, but...
Oh, yeah, I was just camming for a little bit when I worked at a sandwich shop. I just needed extra cash. I was just real broke. Actually, I wasn't
9-year veteran of sandwich shops. I'm with you. A few different ones.
Shout out to Thundercloud.
Right?
But yeah, no, it was... I was working at Thundercloud and, needed more makeup money because I was doing Rocky. And I was like, shit, half of Austin seen me in my underwear. Might as well do it.
Might as well?
Yeah. And like you said, I was on FetLife and had partners and stuff that did it. So it was like, whatever. It was just like, okay, just sign up and I can just get money. People will just pay me money.
Take your clothes off and act a little naughty?
Yeah. And for the longest time,
I masturbate anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So it was just like, shit, I'm just getting paid to do what I was going to do anyway. It's just, it's a lot of fun. It was, I don't know, I just never got into the whole branding thing to make it a whole full-time gig. And then I got an actual real tech support job. So I was like,
and it takes
I'm
more
official
time
now.
to prep than people think.
Yeah, I didn't put a lot of effort into it. I was really just I just came home and shower and then put on some fucking lingerie I got on Wish. And then I had the little Wish starter bondage kit. This is before I got heavy into the scene. And yeah, it was just, I don't know. It was just I got maybe $50 or $100 a month, and I was happy with that.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, but then I got I don't know. It's not that it's not a real job, but I got a actual paying above minimum wage job. So I was yeah. Then I moved out, and then I just didn't have I'd come home from work and be too tired to cam. So,
lost the interest in it.
Right. Well, so being on stage, I take it then, after finding out that you are also a cam girl, being on stage probably isn't quite as naked feeling?
Yeah, no. So, like, the thing with Rocky, we're not allowed to be, like, fully naked at the draft house. So, like, you always got to have pasties and panties on. The only time I've ever, like, done, like, not pasties, we were doing a show out in Colleen. And just, like, the whole, like, administration that, like, organized it was kind of being jerks about it. So, like, we just didn't wear pasties. And so, like, during Touch, I was Janet. Like, when I, like brought off, like, a flash my nipple and everyone, but then I, like, put it back on. And I was like, this is rebellion. And so, yeah, just dumb shit I did when I was a teenager. So this is, like, 18, 19. Yeah.
Yeah, well, what's it like being on stage and going out into an audience that I know has been told not to grab and latch and be dicks, but who's also, drinking and being bawdy and,
Yeah, so at the draft house, it's really chill because, like, you got your tables, you got food, so no one's gonna, like, be, like, reaching over their food. I think the only time it ever gets, like, super grabby, like, we get, like, bachelorette parties or something every once in a while. I will say, like, almost every time we've had
I've heard that from strippers. I've heard that from bartenders. It's not bachelor parties. It's bachelorette parties.
Yeah. So
of like nominally straight women generally.
Yeah. There's, like, this kind of, like, I don't know, like, societal expectations. Like, I've been to a strip club and even, like, the strippers have been like, oh, yeah, you're a girl. You can do whatever you want. Like, and I'm like,
it's like rules should be the same here, guys.
Yeah, it's like, cool, I'm glad you're comfortable with that. But yeah, no, the rules definitely still apply. The only time I've ever been grabbed, we did a show at a brewery once, and, like, some dude tried to grab me when I came in. It was magenta for, like, came in for the speed, and it was, like, standing on a table. He, like, reached up and grabbed my ass, and of course I, like, immediately, like, kicked him, and I was like, fucking don't touch me. Yeah, but no, it is usually mostly, like, drunk chicks. Like, try to grab, like, whoever's, like, playing Frank. It's, so, like, there's been a couple shows where it's been, like, but usually they're, like, once you tell them no, like, that's, like, the cool thing about drunk chicks is, like, once you tell them no, they'll stop. It's just, like,
you have to tell them first?
Yeah, you got, like, but it's, like, you should have listened to the warning, but they weren't because they were drinking and doing the woo thing. So it's, like, yeah. So, yeah, that's definitely, like, one of the only, like, kind of downsides to it, but everything else is pretty fun. Yeah.
And I do want to just remind the audience real quick that we do have lines open, and it's 512-686-0279 if you'd like to call in. Obviously, we're talking about all kinds of stuff, not just Rocky Horror, so go ahead and call us if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions. So, yes, Christy, did you have more questions?
Yeah, well, so it sounds like, to kind of loop back to Jan's question a little bit, that a big part of it is like whether you are shadow casting, which I guess we can put that somewhere on the sex worker spectrum if we really, it's volunteer, so I don't, that all feels a little
paid,
touchy. Yeah. But nevertheless, it feels like a lot of it comes down to, offering a specific set of services or a specific product. Like these are the rules, these are the restrictions that, the provider gets to set. And it's when those rules are getting violated that it starts to become a problem. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, definitely. Like, consent is, like, a huge thing. We had to start putting it in the show, like, in, like, a little, like, pre-show rules things, because people were getting a little handsy. So it's definitely... I think once there's, like, a clear expectation set, like, that was, like, a big thing where, like, at first, like, they were like, oh, they're just being, like, drunk and, like, shitty. And I think, like, as the culture's changed, like, everything's, like, evolved so much from, like, when I first joined to, like, everything we have in place now to protect us and stuff. So it's very, like, at first it's just, like, okay, sometimes, like, Frank or, like, Magenta and Columbia, when they're doing Toucha, they go and sit in the crowd, like, so it's, like, very much, like, oh, people, like, because we're, like, there, that they can, like, do whatever. So I think, like, having those rules where it's, like, hey, we're gonna ask you if we can touch you, you ask us if you can touch us, like, and so even going down to, like, the virgin thing where it's, like, now we're, like, okay, do you want a V on you? Like, so we're very, like, I think as... expectations and, like, our culture change, like, we're evolving with that, and consent has been, like, definitely, like, broadened to include, like, not just, like, sex or, like, groping or anything. It's like, hey, can I, like, touch you or, like, sit on you and, like, shit like that. It's like how, I think, like, everything has to be, like, negotiated basically, and, like, you have to set boundaries and rules for that.
To me, that's one of, and there are a couple, but one of the really beautiful things about sex work writ large. I mean, I know it's not what we were looking to talk about, but just this idea that everything is sort of negotiable, that so long as people are consenting, whether there's a financial component, whether there's a domination component, I mean, whatever it might look like, so long as everybody is feeling comfortable not going with the assigned script that, like, culturally, socially, we're told, okay, we're married, wife put out, honor your husband, so long as it's something where people are actually wanting to participate on these levels and in these different ways.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny, there was that video going around a while back where it was, or not a while back, it was like 2 weeks ago. But it was
back in the olden days of the internet.
Of a couple weeks ago.
Shit happens so fast now. I could not keep up with it. But it was like one of those fucking videos where they do like the little mini documentary, and it was like the 24/7 master slave like lifestyle kink people. And a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, this is like so terrible. Like, how could you be happy? It's like, no, they've obviously like talked about it, and like she's like discussed her boundaries with him, and like she's comfortable doing this, and he's not gonna like command her to do something that she hasn't already agreed to. I think a lot of times
she's empowered to leave.
Exactly. A lot of times people don't realize, like a lot of times like the sub has most of the power in that, where it's like you can be like, oh, I don't consent to this, like we're not gonna have this dynamic anymore. And obviously, like I think a lot of people like to play like devil's advocate. It's like, oh well, what if there is some abuse? And it's like they'll like fucking discuss that, like call the cops and shit. Like if someone is getting abused, like obviously like call the cops and shit. Like, but I think there's definitely like, in like a normal situation where it's like you're from the outside looking in, a lot of people like don't like think that there is that like component of consent when it's like a heavy dynamic like that. But it's
like
definitely
when it's a really involved role dynamic.
Yeah, definitely.
And I don't want to imply that I'm referencing a bunch of research or anything else, because I haven't seen these numbers, but just having worked in domestic violence situations and worked around that community, I am not aware of a single example of somebody who's been in an abusive physically or verbal relationship that then said it tied into the BDSM component of that. People who are in that community, I'm not going to say that they are immune to, but they seem often insulated from actual abuse, in large part because of that communication consent component that's so important in these communities.
Yeah, definitely. And then there's also like the community, like it's almost like a vetting process kind of when you go to like munches and stuff, because like a lot of times, like if you're going to a munch and interacting with people, like people that aren't supposed to be there that might be abusers, they will get themselves like weeded out. Yeah, it's like definitely. So I think like you just, I don't know, like I always say, like just date within the community, like just don't bring like extra shit in, and you're generally like pretty fine. There's obviously like, there's gonna be like shitty relationships, and like there's definitely like a lot of components of like emotional abuse. I feel like but like I've never like seen it where it's been like strictly like the dude or like dom like physically abusing someone. It's always, I don't know, like the very rare, like I think like 2 times I've seen where it's been like a chick like emotionally manipulating a dude, and that doesn't get talked about a lot. I feel like a lot of times like people like kind of like brush that under the rug, but like it's definitely like a huge thing. So yeah. Sorry, I don't know where I was going with this.
No, it's part of...
I mean, abuse does exist in the kink community, clearly. But I don't think that it lives there.
Yeah, no. And when it does happen, we're usually pretty good about, like, kicking those people out and being like, hey, this person's an abuser. Don't fuck them.
Yeah.
So,
or at least not in this community.
Yeah, definitely.
So we do have all our lines open. We have no callers on the line, which means we may have to riff or wrap it up early. So give us a call at 512-686-0279. Any questions are welcome. And tickets are now available online, and the link is in the chat and will be in the show notes. Oh, and up on your screen if you are
look at that
seeing
graphic.
this live. Or back on the video. We will have the Shelley Siegel concert. It will be at Chateau Bellevue, $30 a ticket. That includes your seat, that includes free food, and drink tickets will be available. You will get a live show of us, and you will also get a live acoustic show of Shelley Siegel, which is totally worth the $30. It's ridiculously cheap.
Cost of admission, yeah.
And Valentine's Day perfect date night. So, I did have a question for you. Has this led you to want to do any other stage work?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it was just like more the desire to do stage work that kind of led me to Rocky, or like kind of like vice versa. Like definitely like took drama classes like all throughout high school. That's how I like first found out about it. Like wanted to be an actress like super hardcore like when I was younger. And then like when I joined Rocky, my mom was like, okay, cool, you're doing Rocky, but it's not paying. Like sign up for other like act. Like I had like a fucking what is it called, the what's that website where they post like
Great courses?
No, they post
okay.
like the acting gigs in Austin. I want to say it's not Backdoor, because that's sex work.
R.I.P.
But yeah, no, I like signed up for like all that shit, and like I don't know, I do comedy, so it's like I host an open mic, so that's pretty chill. Yeah, so I think like right now it's just kind of like focusing on like my day job and then comedy, and like, you know, whatever happens if I get a role. I tried to like do modeling for a minute. I don't know, just kind of like a general attention whore kind of like, I just want to be internet famous one day. Like that's like my only goal.
That's the goal.
Yeah, it's just I want BuzzFeed to write a think piece about me one day. Like I don't know, like the Pete Davidson Big Dick Energy one. Like I want BuzzFeed to create an entire meme based on my existence. Like that's all I want. Like,
I mean, I don't know about BuzzFeed, but I think we can probably do that.
yes.
Okay, we will
You
have to
start
do
small.
that.
That actually sounds like a good time.
We will have to
Hell
do
yeah.
that. I mean, you've got the total look for it. I love your hair. It is amazing. And you can't see it on camera, but she is literally sparkling. And it's amazing.
It's like 3 different highlighters mixed together. Yeah.
You got to get that custom blend. Right?
Yeah, no, definitely. When I first started doing Rocky, like again, I was like 18, broke. It was fucking 2015. So makeup wasn't as good as it is now. Did not have great shade ranges. So I'm like sitting there like trying to be like, okay, how do I play Janet? I'm black. Like it's like I don't like. Yeah, that's like also like something that like doesn't like get talked about. There's not a lot of like black people that do Rocky. So like all of the makeup for like Frank is like completely white out your face, and it's like I can't.
Like, turn
Yeah,
into
wearing white
Skeletor.
face is
can't do
not
that.
working
Yeah,
for you.
No. Yeah, so it's definitely like trying to like fucking do your own thing and be like, okay, how much highlighter can I put on without it looking like white face? And then eventually you get like, I don't know, this isn't like my full Frank like makeup obviously, but like I definitely like I had a fun, like I came home from work and I was like, oh, I get to dress up. So yeah.
Well, you look amazing.
On a Thursday.
Yeah, right?
Scandalous.
So that little shout out actually got us a call. So I think I'm going to pick this up here. Matt, you are on the air.
Hi.
Hi. What do you want to talk about?
Well, I called 2 weeks ago about asexuality, and I just wanted to thank you guys because I figured myself out, and that's what I am.
Oh, well, that's awesome. Does that help at all? Like being able to put
Having
a
that
label on
label and yeah.
Yeah, I'm just not alone. No,
No,
Sure, we're glad to
definitely
hear it.
not alone.
But I did actually have one question for your guest, because one thing I do for myself is I do like to dress up. And I was just wondering, because I have a waist measurement, and the clothes I wear sometimes have a hip measurement. So how do I translate that?
Ooh, I'm not the right person to ask. I buy all of my general clothes in the Walmart junior section. Like that's like okay. So let me back up. Are you talking like specifically about corsets? Or like
Yeah, that.
okay. So corsets, I have never had great luck. Like, just don't buy them online. Go to I don't know
I
where
can
you
actually
live.
third that one.
Yeah.
Don't buy your corsets online.
Yeah,
No.
I got like we did like a cast, like this is before I was like cast director, but we did like a giveaway thing where like someone like we were like, oh, cast will buy you like a corset because they like do like the $20 corsets on like corsetstory.com, and like I got that one and I was like, yeah, extra large should fit. It didn't. And I'm not
It's
usually
in one place
Yeah, no.
and nowhere else.
Yeah. So yeah, don't trust like measurements and shit online. Like go to an actual store because like even if like you measure your like hip, waist, bust measurements, it's just not gonna. You have to go. If you're in Austin, like Le Rouge is like literally the I think like the best boutique in Austin to like get a corset. Cindy's has like some like great shit too. My friend corset I actually got at Dreamers, which is like next to Le Rouge. It was like on the clearance rack, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. Because it's like bright red, and I guess like it was like a Christmas thing that no one wanted. But yeah, no, I think like the best advice for like corsets is like find a store near you that sells them. A lot of like you have to go to like a good like lingerie like sex shop, or else like if you try to go to like the mall or something, it's just not going to be good quality. Victoria's Secret like way back in the day used to have like these like bodice crop top corsets,
And they were so cute.
they were like super cute, but by the time I like started doing Rocky, like I couldn't
They're
find them
out
anywhere.
of style now,
Yeah.
I guess, or something, which is totally sad because they used to have, Hot Topic used to have.
I think Spencer's also used to carry corsets. Like
and they
there
used to be super awesome.
Yeah, I don't know what
Back
is
in
going
my teenage
on.
days.
Yeah, but like now it's like you can't find a corset anywhere except like you got to just go
What are you
to a
supposed to
store.
wear to your Hawthorne Heights show? I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, so definitely find a good corset store near you and like try them on. Because like another thing that fucks you up is like the lacing in the back. I don't know if I could like turn and like show like.
I think
what
you can.
have.
Yeah, I think you can turn.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like this corset like.
Oh, you have to turn around a little bit more.
Okay. Oh gosh.
So we got
Okay, there we
laces
go.
all the way
There's
down
laces.
the back.
There's like hella laces and I guess they
Top
can't hear,
straps.
I guess they can't hear me because I'm like not talking into the mic. But it's like triple knotted because of all the like excess ribbon, and so like I used to be a little bigger than this, so like
Something
you can see,
adjustable?
like, there's so much,
There.
Like so definitely if you are gonna buy it online, get whatever like the largest size is, and then like try to like
Play with it
lace
and-
it in from
okay.
there. Yeah, because okay.
So it
Oh,
should
that's
be
okay.
something that's
Other way.
adjustable.
Other way. Yeah, there you go. And I did see a suggestion in the chat that might actually be good too, is go to a Ren fair.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's actually
yes.
pretty smart. Yeah.
Because they have a lot of theirs are handmade actually, and they could maybe do a little bit better of a custom work for you. It would definitely cost more, but it
You're
would
gonna spend.
fit better.
Yeah. Oh, and anime conventions and shit too, like fan expos and stuff. Every once in a while, there's like some corset vendors there. I think that was actually like the first time I tried on a corset, but then it ended up being like $200, and I was like, nah. But yeah. Conventions, Ren fairs, lingerie shops, like whatever you do, you just want to make sure that you're trying it on in person because those online ones do not work. Yeah.
I hope that helped.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that was pretty good, though. I'm not really sure where I can go. I did just get some from online.
Oh, did they work out though?
Yeah, well, the
Okay.
two are more of a bustier.
Okay. Yeah.
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 And
Yeah.
the one
It
that was
also
a straight
depends.
You have to
corset,
learn like
not
a
so
whole nother language
Oh yeah.
to buy these things.
Oh,
It is
yes.
pretty wild. All the different, I mean, there are like 72 different numbers. I mean, somebody recommended buying a tailor's tape measure, and that's not a terrible idea, but if you don't know what you're doing, that thing can get you in more trouble than
Oh,
it
yeah.
can help.
Yeah, no, and I've like literally I like went to it was a kink party where like before the party they do like a class, and like 1 month they did a corset class, and I like even came out of the class confused because I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I know how to tie it, but like you did, like I still don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
All
Like,
these numbers really just made me more confused than I was before.
yeah,
I just want to look sexy, not do math.
Hopefully that helped a little bit.
I think
Yeah,
the biggest
well,
thing is finding a very sex positive shop in your area that's going to be comfortable and communicative and that you're going to feel comfortable in. And, you know, that might mean doing like a drive-by a couple of times before you actually go in. That might mean going in and not actually buying anything or talking to the sales associate, just sort of easing yourself into, kind of like we talked about with Janet at the top of the show, just getting comfortable with the notion of having like an open conversation with a sales representative who can help you fit and measure and everything else. Maybe you're already there, but I wouldn't hold it against you if this is like a new and uncomfortable thing that you are, stretching into. And just knowing that you don't have to have it all figured out today in order for it to happen ever. You can definitely go into a shop, kind of peruse, get a familiarity, and then come back a month later before making a purchase, or, come back several times before making a purchase. That's perfectly acceptable, and that still shows growth and progress and effort, and I think that that's a beautiful thing in and of itself.
I went to like 3 different stores before I bought my first corset. We like tried stuff on. I was like, nothing really fits. And I'm like, this doesn't feel right. And then like we came back to LaRouge like a week later, and then I was like, oh, this one fits. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm not there yet. So far, the only people who have seen me have been cam girls, actually.
Yeah, it's a process, and I don't think there's any shame in working through that shame and it taking a little bit of time.
And there is also the option, if you do have that kind of social stigma barrier, there is the option of going in and buying one, taking it home, trying it on, and then taking it back. So you don't have to try it on in store.
Yeah.
Yeah, just make sure they have a good return policy.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, all right. Well, thanks a lot. I was going to give one tip for others because there is one good website that has a men's side and women's side. So
yeah, please share.
Please do.
Yeah, hisroom.com. You just click a button and then you go into her room, and the shopping cart is shared, and you check out wherever you want.
Nice.
Well, all right. We appreciate the heads up. Good luck finding a good fit and moving forward.
And if you find any better websites or anything, feel free to give us a call back, because I know we have listeners who would be interested.
No question.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Yeah, that can be a tricky subject, especially when you're not out of the closet, as it were, and feeling socially comfortable with yourself yet. With those kind of things.
The truth is, it can be very uncomfortable for a man to go into any lingerie store to buy for somebody else.
Yeah.
So let alone to bring in their own body and their own sense of perhaps dysmorphia or moral shame, or all of those things can be incredible barriers. So, in a perfect world, it's just like going and buying groceries at the store. You walk in, you look at different selections, you figure out what you want, and you walk
Sniff
out.
test.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't hold it against anybody who felt like it was a much more complicated transaction than that.
No,
I used
not
to
at
be
all.
terrified of like going into sex stores, because like there was like one, and I think it's called the Todd in Tampa, and it's like this big like warehouse looking building in the middle of like this like seedy ass neighborhood.
The Todd sounds kind of like a frat boy rapist.
Yeah, no. And so like I didn't go to a sex shop. My first time at a sex shop was with like Rocky cast members getting my corset, and then I was like, oh, this isn't so bad. The lady's like so nice and helpful, and like I mean I was with it's my friend and another guy friend who was also like getting corsets. So it was like definitely like I always feel like I like forget like how shitty other places outside of Austin can be.
It is difficult, or it's easy for us to forget how difficult it is for other people outside of our wonderful liberal bubble. So I did want to do a shout out to that we will be visiting a sex shop in the near future.
Yeah, that came to my mind as well. We're going to be visiting Forbidden Fruit, and I think this would be a great opportunity for us to ask them about their menswear basically, and not only that, but just how to get
and not
the right sizes,
not just their
the right
masculine
fits.
menswear, but their more feminine menswear.
Absolutely. So that's something to look forward to. That's something that we're going to do, I think, at the end of February. So we're really excited about all the incredible folks that have been coming out of the woodworks to join us here on air, and of course,
like
Lana's a big part of that. So. We do have a few more calls and a few more open lines.
Yes.
But I really didn't want to get too far away without asking you just a little bit more about your experience with Rocky Horror. It sounds like your parents have been very supportive, and that's incredible. That's awesome. But for me, one of the things I like about the show isn't just that it is like this safe, queer, silly space, but that it also is a little bit like countercultural, maybe even aggressive in that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I wonder what it's like to feel, in some ways on the front lines of, pushing back in the culture war, of making space for folks.
Yeah, definitely. I think like the biggest like contributor to that is definitely the call lines. They've definitely evolved a lot over the year, and I think as like things happen, like the election and stuff, we try to like come up with like new shit. It's like having like a safe space to just like angrily yell shit like and get your frustrations out is one of like the biggest like comforts I think that like Rocky really gives to people is like the movie itself, right, is like just so like over the top and extra, and you're just like, oh my gosh, I want to be like this fabulous like transsexual from Transylvania and like wear all this like extravagant makeup and stuff, and then at the same time it's like, holy shit, like, you can, like, fuck whoever you want to fuck, and, like, all the call lines are just, like, like, there's, like, the Nixon speech thing I think we were talking about earlier, where it's, like, very much, like, all these references that, like, still kind of, like, hold up today, right?
Yeah.
Where it's, like, oh, America needs a full-time president, not a part-time asshole. Like, it's, like, apply to Nixon, applies now. So it's, like, very much, like, definitely, like, you have to, like, kind of like come up with like new shit, and like a lot of times like even audience members will like yell shit and we're like, oh, stealing that. And it's definitely a regional thing too. I went and saw the Florida Shadowcast. Shout out to Hell on Heels. I don't know if any of them are going to be watching this, but they're really great too. So like I brought a lot of that back, where it's like, you're kind of like struggling like with shit in like your own communities too. So for them, like, I think it was, like, a little bit after, like, the Parkland shooting had happened, and it's definitely, like, kind of, it's, like, a safe place to, like, make these, like, inappropriate jokes and, like, use humor as, like, almost like a coping mechanism and, like, kind of work through that, where it's, like, shit, yeah, this horrible thing, like, did happen, and we have, like, a shitty fucking president, and there's, like, all these, like, terrible things, or, like, celebrities that die, and it's, like, oh, man, like, what are you gonna do about it? And, like, you want to, like, pay homage to it. Like, every year we do a dead celebrity show, and, like, so we have, like, one year we did, like, David Bowie as Frank, or, like, the OxyClean Man as Riff Raff. But it's, like, it's kind of, like, working through that, and you're, like, I did Aaliyah. So, like, that was, like, a whole, like, very, like, cathartic kind of experience, where, I would say, where it's, like, you get to, like, simultaneously, like, both rebel against this, like, shitty system and, like, pay homage to the things that you love. So, yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever gotten any, serious pushback from that? I mean, it sounds like your parents on board, but have you ever, people been heckled, or, I mean, maybe not picketing outside the theater, but
no, we've never been, like, protested or anything. There's, definitely been pushbacks from, like, venues where they're like, hey, tone it down a little bit, like, we cut out the, like, air humping thing, or, like, there was that one theater that was, like, kind of being, like, jerks about, like, the call lines and stuff, that in Khalid, and we did, like, the nipple thing. So that was, sometimes there is some pushback. Usually it's usually from people that are, like, very concerned about, like, bad press and stuff. So there's, like, that element to it. As far as, like, fans, I think generally most of the time when people come to Rocky, they know what they're expecting. We've done a pretty good job of, like, promoting it as, like, hey, you're not just sitting here watching a movie, like, you're here to see a
Shadowcast. It's a participation event.
Yeah, and I think, like, we've done a very good job about cutting out call lines that, may have, at one time were, like, we can't just, like, scream the F word, So, like,
but you can hear.
Okay. I personally
let me
don't
unplug my monitor before you scream, but otherwise go for it.
But, or, like, there was, like, this, like, shitty Michelle Obama joke, and I was like, hey, that kind of, like, makes me a little bit uncomfortable. So it was, like, there's, like, little things like that where it's, like, okay, we've, like, moved to a point in society where it's, like, instead of, like, this being, like, a thing we need to, like, joke about for, like, comfort and stuff, it's, like, okay, is this, like, a joke about comfort, or was this something that, like, some asshole yelled, and, like, then we just kept it? So there's definitely, like, like a refining process, I guess, for call lines, but
which I actually really appreciate, that there's an opportunity to maybe say the wrong thing, but then to be kind of gently corralled and corrected, and have the opportunity to explore, I guess.
No, it's definitely like a very like explorative place, and like we're very like, I know like the pre-show we're like, oh, take your complaints and go fuck yourself, but we're very like open and receptive to feedback. Like if there is something that's like offending you or like bothering you, we're like definitely open to like listen to it. And I think like the only like complaints we've ever had is just the fact that we are shouting over the movie, which has been pretty nice. Like sometimes, because like I said, like we've done a better job now, but definitely in the past there have been people who have like walked out because they're like, I just came to watch a movie at midnight. Like, why? So it's like, you knew what, you should have known what you were signing up for.
This movie's been around. Like, you've had opportunities to see it.
Yeah, you could have did a single Google search and realized what was up. But yeah, no, it's definitely, I don't know. There was like one time I like wasn't performing and I was sitting in the audience, and there was a couple, like there was a like empty seat and then like a couple, and you could tell it was like their first date, and she was like super uncomfortable and he was super uncomfortable, and you're
Who
like,
does that for a first date?
yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's like the first one or like, it was definitely like, it seemed like a newer relationship because like they like seemed like they were like very like happy at first. Then everything started and I like was watching them and I was like, oh, they're not enjoying this. And I'm like, but it's definitely not like something that you can control. Like you can't control other people's experiences or like, tell them what they can or can't be offended by. So it's definitely a lot of like not taking it personally and just kind of like working to refine it. Because at the end of the day, you want like a good, funny show that is a safe space for people. Yeah. And, you can't really have that if, people are just like yelling whatever the fuck they want, because it's like, I don't know, like we were talking about that Tumblr post earlier that was like, oh, Rocky's like transphobic. It's like, no, it's just like a really old movie, and it's like the way that you like interpret it and contextualize it. It's like if people like, if like Frank got on screen and like people were like, oh, gross, boo, and it's like, no, we're like, look at that, that's a well-hung speaker. Like it's like we're like sexualizing and being like, this is like, a good thing. And I think the call lines really like add to that and like make it like this kind of like progressive, open and accepting space.
So how physical is the performance?
It depends on the performer. That's another thing that's definitely like thankfully changed over the years. We definitely like whenever we're like rehearsing and stuff, we're like, okay, what do you want to do for like this specific scene? Like for Tacha, it doesn't necessarily have to be like dry humping on the stage or something. Like there's like one girl and we were like, I don't really want to do this, so we just like played patty cake, and it was like adorable. Yeah. And so like every once in a while, like you'll have like there's like a girl playing Janet and a girl playing Rocky. Like they'll do that. It's like adorable, and I always want to take credit for that, but yeah, no, it's definitely there's been I have this one guy on cast when I was dating, he was Rocky, like we'd like go all out, like I'd be like pulling his hair. One time I pulled a little bit of his hair out, and then we were like, oh no, this is like a little too far, but like it's definitely being like able to like it's like negotiating a kink scene where it's like, okay, what do you want to do in this literal scene? Like where it's like, okay, like I'll like spank you a little bit, or I'll hump you, or I'll pull your hair, and it's like there's definitely like a difference between like doing it and like fully committing. And back when he was on cast, I was like 19, so again I was like fully committing to I was hurting myself on stage, like my back was just fucked. There was like I like jumped off stage once. I used to do this like crazy ass back bends too. But it's a very physically demanding thing, like, but only like how much effort you put into it. Like you can get up there and be like lazy and just like do whatever, but like I always think like the best show is gonna be like when you're like 100%
full of energy
committed.
And going.
Yeah, if like I always say, if like by the end of Time Warp I'm not drenched in sweat, then I'm not doing it right. Like no, unless I'm like Frank, because I'm just in the back. But yeah, definitely.
Nice.
Well, I mean, have you yourself ever gotten any pushback? People at work that, came to see the show and were like, oh my God, they're naked people here, or,
No, No, so again, thankfully, like super perfect. Like I have this like kind of philosophy of like just full transparency. Like I'm very open with like family, coworkers. Like even in interviews, I'll be like Rocky's on my resume because like I manage like the Facebook page and everything.
Yeah.
So like people are like, oh, what's O'Brien's Orchestra? And it's like, let me tell you. And so my job before this, actually, the like head like manager that like was like my second interview, she was telling me about how like she loved Rocky and they had a former employee that like did it, like, but she like managed other companies too. They were in like New York or something. And basically she was like, oh my gosh, we'll like come out and like organize a whole company trip to come see you. And I was like, no, you don't have to do all that. Like luckily they never did, but like I've had like a couple coworkers like come see the show, and you know they've like loved it. I think like those nights I definitely wouldn't like want to be like up there like playing Janet or Frank. Like I'll like do like Magenta or like Eddie or something, because it's like
because of the sexual nature
yeah,
of those performances.
Yeah, I'm like fine with it. Like I feel like I said, like I'm very like open about it. It's just like there's like a whole other level between like telling someone about it and then being like, here's my boobs, like actually like them like seeing it in person, like that's like a little line. I'm like, okay, this is a little like too far maybe, but you know, I'm like my mom's seen me play Janet. Like I think she saw it like my third time playing Janet. My grandma's been to the show. Like
wow.
Yeah, no, I mean just like she like sits there and like watches Jerry Springer all day too. So like my grandma's a badass. Shout out to my grandma. So my whole family's like been supportive and they've seen me do Rocky. I think definitely like my mom's only seen me that one time, so I'm thinking, you know, maybe like, you know, obviously you don't like want to like watch your daughter like run around in her underwear all the time, but still it's like they're all like very supportive, and like my coworkers are like very supportive. Like I left like work early today to come to the show, so like yeah, I think I have like a good like life system. Like I can't say the same for like everyone on cast. Like there's definitely like other people who are like, I can't be tagged in photos or else like because my parents will disown me. So it's like I definitely understand like the risk factor and like not having
the fear of that moral judgment, religious shame.
Exactly. There's like some older members that like can't like be tagged for like work reasons. So it's like very like, and I think that's like kind of like, I guess like the privilege of like being, I don't know, me or like being a 22-year-old is like, I have this like great like set of like supportive people around, but it's definitely, you know, not the case for everyone. And it's like, I want it to be. So I'm like, let's do it. Just like, fuck your parents, disown them. But like, obviously I can't make that decision for everyone. So it's, you know, trying to like find the balance between that and, you know, try to like help society be more progressive without like shoving it down everyone's throats.
Which is one of the reasons we're here.
Right? Yeah. Like to participate, and it's exciting. I mean, you talk about how it's changed even for as long as you've been a part of it, and it is Rocky, like the film itself, the Rocky Horror Picture Show, the movie, feels like this sort of, you know, Rorschach like ink blot that we just put all of our own cultural shit on.
Yeah.
But it is really encouraging to feel like there's progress being made, that almost Rocky Horror itself is at this point where it's such like a cultural staple after 40 years that it is, if not accepted, it's not this like revolutionary crazy idea that it maybe once was.
Yeah, no, and definitely like so one of the people on cast they're like, oh yeah, no, my parents would like disown me if I like found out about this, but at the same time they're like, I was like, okay, well, how are your parents gonna find out about this? Because they like Rocky. Because I'm like, okay, I don't see what like the like it's like, okay, they are like, I think there's like there's fans of the movie and then there's fans of like the culture around it, right? So it's like they're like, oh, this is a fun movie to watch, and then there's people that are like, don't dress up in ladies' clothing. So it's like very much like that, where it's I think almost this kind of like society likes to kind of like hold on to like these like ideals and stuff, but not actually acknowledge, you know, like what's going on in the back. Like there's like, I don't know if you've like seen that like horror movie on Netflix about like the cam girl and like her account gets like hacked by some demon or something. I actually haven't seen it. I just like watched a really bad review about it. But like it's like society like likes to like have these things and like acknowledge them, but like not talk about them or like let people do them, which is like shitty. And like, I don't know, hate that.
I mean, it's that same cognitive dissonance that's been kind of running throughout this whole episode, really.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And so I think with that, because we do not have any callers, we are coming up to time. So do you think, would you like to take us out?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a great time talking to you and learning
you.
all about the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I'm terribly excited to show this episode to my dad. Maybe he'll watch one. But yeah, so thank you so much for joining us. Thank y'all so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And we'll be joined next week by the lovely and wonderful Serafina Smith.
Yes.
So please join us then. And I guess until then, you know, whether it's wearing a corset, whether it's commodified, pasties, you know, whether it is while doing the time warp and singing along to 70s rock and roll, we just want to encourage everybody out there to go and give yourself a big ol' orgasm. Or, better yet, give somebody else one.
Or give yourself one.